buy the sanitizers, make sure it's an alcohol-based sanitizer. It's able to kill the virus and kill any infections and so on easily. So that's our aim. Secondly, be aware of the alerts. For example, now we're talking about a travel ban of alerts, the World Health Organization guidelines. Be aware of those alerts because that's where your information must come from. Be aware of fake news. There are people who don't yet take the virus seriously. You know, you find that it has become a little bit of a joke and so on. And I know that we are a humorous nation, but sometimes you've got to stand and stop and say, this is a matter of life and death. So be aware of the alerts and information from the World Health Organization. Elbow. You all remember the elbow. Minister of Health showing us there that if you are to cough or sneeze, just block with your elbow if you don't have a tissue or something of that nature. And of course, the elbow greeting. Don't touch hands and shake and so on. And I know that it's natural that people will extend their hand to you to say, hello, chief and comrade, what? Just say, elbow them. Right. That's our E. And then I, before we go to I, the empathy, the issue of stigma around corona is very, very serious. Right. It's important that people who have the virus have our empathy. Don't do these things where people march and say, we don't want these people here. You know, like the ANC Youth League did last week. You know, it's a mindless thing. It's like how people were killed for being HIV positive in the 80s. It's a backward thing, you know. When somebody is affected, all what we need is to have sympathy for those people and not behave like people who don't have Ubuntu. Infections, obviously, you need to watch out for symptoms of the infection. Sneezing, coughing and what? Stay at home. If you're coughing and so on, stay at home because you're going to affect your fellow workers. And of course, the Minister of Labour is saying that if you stay at home because of the corona, etc., you will be able to be compensated. So don't think, oh my God, I'm going to lose my job and so on. And employers must also exercise that empathy I talked about in ensuring that we can fight the infections. Now, so in terms of reporting, you know, the symptoms and what, once you are positive, report immediately. Do not sit around for weeks on end because you are afraid to go forward and tell your colleagues or your family that in fact you have been found to be positive, because that has implications. Because once you are found, you need to be able to be quarantined, to be isolated, to be treated. Because this so far, the death rate is been very low because of the interventions of various countries in ensuring that people get the necessary attention. The outbreak has been declared a pandemic by the World Health Organization, and here in South Africa, of course, we've declared the state of disaster. That means that government can be able to release resources to do community mobilization, treatment, create isolation wards, do all the necessary things in a matter of emergency. And of course, there are also suggestions that at some point we must declare a national state of emergency. Of course, with all that it triggers in our minds about what the state of emergency used to be, this time it will be for a good cause. That is in terms of our EOU of coronavirus. Of course, keep up for updates. We will ensure that you here in Newsroom Africa will give you updates of what is happening, how is this affecting agriculture, food security, and so on. How is this affecting you? We'll keep you up to date. Keep yourself updated, but ensure that in those updates you go to credible sources. You must use proper precautions, right? If you are infected in particular, use the masks. Don't just go and do mass purchasing of masks and so on. These are by advice. Obviously, if you are working in contact areas, you are working in areas where you have to deal with people on a close basis, a mask obviously is recommended. People who are working at the airports, who are receiving people in the country, must be able to get. So if you are working in places like AXA and so on, ensure that sanitizers are there for your staff. Ensure that if you are working there as a staff member, you protect yourself, because people who come through are not yet tested and anything in that regard can happen. The RAEOU of coronavirus coming to you out of here in Linden in Johannesburg.